Wrong one. Sorry. Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen in the gallery and those listening at home. Please be seated while Councillor McDonald delivers the blessing. Thank you.
Let us remember and say a prayer for those in our community less fortunate than we, those who struggle to make ends meet, may be homeless and/or face other health challenges and mountains to climb every day. Also say a prayer and give thanks to our City of Gosnells volunteers, without whose humanity, care, generosity of spirit and self-sacrifice would otherwise make life that much harder for those who face daily struggles. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Before we begin, I will acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional lands of the Whadjuk Noongar people and pay my respects to their elders, both past and present. It is now 7:05 and I declare the meeting open. I'll read the disclaimer, also the announcement of visitors. No announcement of visitors. Other than I read the disclaimer, which is members of the public are cautioned against taking any action on council decisions on items in which they may have an interest until such time as they've seen a copy of the minutes of the meeting or have been advised in writing by city staff. Just to make you all aware, we are live streaming, so please note that all council meetings are digitally recorded and live streamed on the city's YouTube channel, except for confidential agenda items, during which time the live stream will be temporarily suspended. Record of attendance, we're all here. Councillor Adams joining us online. Are there any disclosures of interest, councillors? No disclosure of interest. No announcements by presiding member. Reports of delegates. Are there any reports from delegates? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
I'll let Peter do the explaining, Councillor Betts do the explaining at our next OCM, but tomorrow night you'll be all happy to know that is our very last ever Regional Rivers Council meeting, and it's going to be handed over and no more having to fork out money from us, so which is good. All our rubbish is going to be burnt into energy, so yeah, it's after many, many years, and I can't remember how many years it's going now, it's been that long, but I'm pretty sure I was about that high, but it's certainly up there, so yeah, so pretty excited about that.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Are there any other reports from delegates? Councillor McDonald, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to report that I attended the History and Heritage Advisory Group meeting on the 6th of February, and amongst the discussions was an update on the Maddington Homestead. Roofs have now been constructed and windows installed. A motion was also passed that the former Mayor Freeman of the City, Mrs Pat Morris, be congratulated on receiving a high commendation in the WA Heritage Awards in 2024. And also the Chair noted that the sad passing of Dr Gil McDonald, who was a former member of the History and Heritage Advisory Group and co-author of the Gosnells story. And they all form part of the minutes in the agenda this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. We'll now move on to question times with public. Oh, sorry, Deputy Mayor Williamson. Didn't see you.
Thank you. I just would like to make a report about the Welga Urban Forest Conference that 5 elected members attended on the 14th of February, and also there was a masterclass on the 13th of February. I think it was really great to have such a huge representation of elected members from Gosnells attend that conference. It was really great considering the importance of the environment and trees within our community, and I think it shows how committed we as a council are to preserving the environment and trying to make steps to preserve our future environment for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. We now move on to public question time. There are a number of questions here tonight, so we'll see how we go with getting through those. So first we've got Leah Sislak. Would you come forward, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the council do anything to revamp or rehabilitate the corner of Gosnells Road East and Tonkin Highway, given the increased burnouts, hooning, suspicious activity and antisocial behaviour that's happening there?
Thank you. And I can probably answer this because I actually wrote to Main Roads and asked them if they'll do something with that, and they are considering doing something with it. So hopefully we'll hear back from them soon. Thank you.
Thank you,
Next
Madam
question.
Mayor. What is the city doing regarding the sewage pumping station for Dudley Road in Kenwick for the residents that aren't currently able to get deep sewage?
Mr CEO will respond to this. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we've consistently argued that sewage is a state government infrastructure responsibility, so that question really needs to be referred to the state.
Thank you, Mr CEO.
Thank you. The next question is from Mr Daniel, your mic's still on, Daniel Stevens. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I was told in 2011 that the cricket pitch on the old Maddington Oval was to be removed. So I just want to find out what's going on. So my question is, why hasn't the cricket pitch on the old Maddington Oval been removed?
Thank you. So were you told that in 2011, did you say? Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Mr CEO, respond to that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we'll probably look to remove that when we sort of redo the whole site.
Thank you. I now have Stephanie Peake. Thank you. Stephanie Peake, which is not here. No, okay. Mr Patrick Cullen, please.
The City of Gosnells has been told by the EPA, the appeals convener, and the Minister for the Environment to fulfil certain conditions before planning can take place at Scheme Amendment 166 and 169 around the Brixton wetlands. Specifically, the appeals convener said that this should not be done at the scheme amendment stage. My first question is, why are the City of Gosnells defying this process and pushing ahead with the rezoning of land at Scheme Amendment 166 and 169 to industrial land?
Thank you for your question. Mr Terrell, the Director for Planning, will respond to that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Minister for the Environment statement said that the amendment shouldn't be implemented unless it included particular conditions, and the recommendation before you tonight includes reference to those conditions being inserted into the scheme amendment. So if the amendment was successful, those conditions would become part of it.
Yeah, but they told you to do that before the scheme amendment,
Mr.
not
Cullen,
after.
Your next question, please.
Okay, the next question is the council aware that they could face a judicial inquiry if they go through with this blatant disregard for the conservation of this wetland?
Thank you, Mr Cullen, and Mr Terrell will respond to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The resolution, or the proposed resolution, is actually a recommendation to the Minister. It's not a final approval or a final decision. It's merely information that the Minister will consider in finalising the amendment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr Cullen. I now have Mr Gavin Davis. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. The MK SEA Amendment 169 out in the Kenwick area where we're being zoned industrial. There's a couple of pertinent points I think need to be brought up. Why is the approval sought now when the main roads department and water corporate do not support the plan? And there's a clear 2/3 of people, of landowners, not. And one of the big things I say, traffic is already becoming a nightmare entering and leaving.
Thank you, Mr Davis. I'll get your question answered.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Mr Terrell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The amendment sought because the council are required by law to bring its planning scheme into line with the metropolitan region scheme. In relation to the road and traffic issues, the future structure plan will actually introduce a new an extension to the road network to alleviate the traffic concerns that are currently being felt in the area.
Thank you. Your next question, please.
How does council justify the plan which contradicts itself with the fact that the Bush Forever land along Brentwood Road is left without a buffer zone, and while the only road plan joining Brentwood Road and Boundary Road is placed in the only area concentrated with residential homes, horse accommodation, and goes straight through and destroys my private residence and agriculture business to service just 2 residents with truck parking businesses on Boundary Road when there is clear alternatives. I might also add, this road goes through buffer zones.
Thank you for your question. I'll ask Mr Terrell to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's a couple of parts to that. In relation to buffers, buffer distances are considered on individual merit-based assessment, and they relate to the location of environmental assets within that Greater Brixton Street area. And that's clearly evidenced along much of the land along Brook Road, which isn't impacted by buffers. In terms of the structure plan and future road alignment, the structure plan is only a draft at this stage and is yet to receive any formal approval from any government agency or the council. So the detailed alignment of road reserves will be refined during the structure plan process, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to move that around, and that will be an issue that there'll be community feedback on as the structure plan process evolves.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Davis. The next question is from Christine Richardson from the Urban Bushland Council.
Thank you. It's Colma Keating representing the Urban Bushland Council of WA and our Chair, Christine Richardson. And it's with regard to agenda items 13, 13.22 and 13.23 with regard to the town planning scheme amendments for numbers 166 and 169. You're aware of key documents and the time sequence that underpins the agenda item that you're going to be looking at, including starting in 2022 with the EPA report about environmental values, pressures and the Greater Brixton Street wetlands on the Swan Coastal Plain. In the documents you've got attached for your agenda, they contain the text of the annex from the Minister's Statement 1238 and 1239, but omit attachment A that specifies the environmental outcomes that must be achieved through the process. So question 1 is, could you please outline the progress on revising the water balance for the amendment area and the Greater Brixton Street wetlands?
Thank you, and I'll ask Mr Terrelink to respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding of the sequence of processes and approvals. And in particular, the first issue that needs to be resolved is the scheme amendment with the ministerial conditions affirmed in the scheme amendment. And then after that, the preparation of the revised water balance and site-specific buffer investigations will actually inform the continued evolution of the structure plan. And that work also includes necessary liaison with DWER and relevant environmental agencies.
Thank you. Your next question?
I think there's links to the one you've just answered. Could you also please outline the progress on site-specific investigations to determine the buffer requirements for the Greater Brixton Street wetlands and the wetlands in the conservation area?
Thank you, Mr Terrelink.
The recommendations at the moment relate solely to the scheme amendment, so the draft structure plans can't be finalised at this stage.
Thank you. And your last question?
If the subjects in question 1 and 2 have not yet been finalised and endorsed by the relevant state government agency departments, could you please advise why draft structure plans are being considered at this meeting if officers do not yet have the updated environmental information they need to amend the previous plan? The Urban Bushland Council believes that the decision on these TPS amendments should be deferred until these scientific studies have been made available to the councillors and the community, and that councillors can be satisfied that there is compliance with the ministerial statements.
Thank you. And Mr Terrelink, would you be able to respond to that, please?
Madam Mayor, a lot of that I think is probably a statement or an assertion, but the recommendations tonight do relate solely to the scheme amendments. The structure plan is a subsequent stage in the process which obviously can't be finalised until the amendments are in place.
Thank you for your questions. Thank you. I now have Mr Alan Dolphin. Mr Alan Dolphin, if you come forward, please.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Within the Southern River Canal Zone, are there any conditions or requirements regarding adequate water supply, scheme and or bore water to the canals within the development approvals process?
Thank you, Mr Terrelink. Stay standing.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. There's no requirement as part of the development approvals process, but kennel licences issued under the dogs local law include a requirement for suitable drinking and cleaning water being made available for dogs.
Thank you. Your next question?
Next question. Are there specific conditions or requirements for those in a bushfire risk area to ensure adequate water supply, scheme and or bore water to the kennels, and that any bores, etc. are in working condition? And does the City of Gosnells conduct inspections to ensure compliance?
Thank you, Mr Terrelink.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no requirements for water supply for kennels in the bushfire guidelines. The bushfire guidelines only require water for firefighting purposes, and there's inspections aren't carried out unless there would be a complaint.
Thank you. And your question 3, thank you.
It sounds repetitive, but we're getting there. In the initial planning documents for the proposed 100 kennel facility to house ex-racing greyhounds awaiting rehoming at 47, and I need to amend that because it's at 47 Madison Street, not Road. The bushfire attack level was in the process of being prepared. Has the BAL and associated bushfire management statement since been provided?
I know you've got 3 questions within
Want
one
me to ask
question.
them all at the same
Yeah,
time?
if you could,
Yep.
if maybe you just ask for an update on the BAL for that application, or?
Yep, so are the conditions within these 2 statements regarding sufficient water supply and any bores, etc., being in working condition, and these also apply in hot weather events? And are similar conditions applicable to the property as it operates at present to house racing greyhounds?
Thank you, Mr Terwilliger, if you've got the answer with you.
Firstly, Madam Mayor, the plan has been provided, and the bushfire management plan acknowledges that the property has a reticulated water supply, which is deemed satisfactory for firefighting purposes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr Dolphin.
Okay.
I now have Kylie Webster. Thank you.
Good evening. The City indicated at the annual electors meeting that it's not standard process to provide support for a proposal before undertaking any community consultation. Why was it provided for the drive-in proposal?
Thank you for your question. Mr CEO will respond to this. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, the City doesn't have a cinema at the moment, and there was a widely held view that the concept, and we're just talking concept, was worth exploring.
Thank you. Your next question.
All right, given that the concept was worth exploring, why did the CEO's report consider that withdrawal of that, I suppose, in principle support would have reputational damage for the City? Could you provide context for why that is? Surely any support would be conditional on the outcomes of community consultation, review of environmental and social impact assessment documentation, and the actual tabled proposal, which I note is substantially larger than what was presented to the elected members when support was indicated.
Thank you. Mr CEO will respond.
Madam Mayor, the report considered reputational damage in terms of the City not being a location for private sector investment. However, the cinema proponent was always going to need a planning approval, which would consider a range of issues such as community views, environmental impacts, and numerous other factors such as access and light spill. This is the established process for considering such matters.
Thank you. Your next question.
Can you please outline how a commercial drive-in is aligned with the purpose and infrastructure of public open space per the City's public open space strategy?
Thank you, and Mr CEO will respond to that one.
Madam Mayor, the City conducts outdoor cinemas on various parks and open spaces each year, and viewing films is considered a form of recreation. Further, in terms of commercial activities, it's not unusual, although it's not common, for commercial activities to occur on public open spaces, with the examples being cafes in parks or golf courses.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got more questions, but okay.
Now have Katie Cullen. Thank you.
Good evening. My questions are about Harmony Field's proposal as well. How did the City arrive at the $100,000 per annum as the commercial lease value for over 7 hectares of land?
Thank you, and Mr CEO will respond to that.
Madam Mayor, it was an assumption based on an approximate valuation provided to the City when the proponents were initially considering land at Tom Bateman Reserve.
Thank you. Your next question.
What alternative commercial developments have been discussed for the land, or rather why has the City chosen the drive-in proposal as being in the best interest of its ratepayers?
And Mr CEO will respond to that. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, we've had no other commercial development proposals put to the City by the private sector.
Thank you.
Next have Mr Leon Walker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Which section of the Local Government Act or any regulation empowered by the Act or any local law mandates that a member of the public cannot ask the same question at different question times for the public?
That would be directed at me in last council meeting, I'm assuming. I don't believe there is any section in the Act, but the Chair does have the right to run an efficient council meeting, and if the same questions are being asked week after week with the same responses, then I'm not sure that that's running an efficient council meeting.
Thank you,
Next
Madam
question.
Mayor. Is the total sum of $32 million estimated for the repairs required to build buildings at Carrican in the independent report of Home Integrity Building Consultants considered to result solely from fair wear and tear?
I'll get the CEO to respond to this. I'm not sure where that $32 million number came from.
Madam Mayor, I can't remember either, but certainly when the buildings were handed over to the Kraken and the group that is responsible for running it, they weren't in a pristine condition. So it's
the $32 million comes from the
Mr.
report,
Walker.
the independent report of Home Integrity Building Consultants, who I understand were engaged by the city to get an estimate of the value of the repairs required.
Thanks, Mr. Walker. I'll move on to question 3.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How has Councillor Dewhurst been held to account for his conduct at the OCM on November 12 last year, when he made allegedly derogatory and defamatory remarks about a member of the public reading a public statement and about 2 members of the public during the debate on item 13.1.1?
Thank you for your question, Mr. CEO. I'm once again not sure what that one is. Sorry.
Madam Mayor, I'm not sure how we can answer that one. It's for council to deal with issues, and members of the public, if they've got a genuine complaint, they can raise them with the department.
Thank you. Your next question.
Okay. What measures are available in the Local Government Act 1995, any regulations empowered by the Act, and any local law to hold Councillor Dewhurst to account for his conduct at the OCM on November 12 last year?
And I believe the CEO responded to that in the last question. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We now has Mr. Brad Davey. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the council do anything about the intersection of Clapham Street and Camberwell Street in Beckenham, such as installing soft bollards or something in the middle of Camberwell Street to stop people cutting the corner due to constant near misses?
We can take that on notice and we can look into that. Thank you, Mr. Davey. Next question.
Is the council still monitoring the cars parking on Camberwell Street, as the cars are now parking on the opposite side of the road to where the signs were installed?
Well, we're going to have to take that one on notice as well. We haven't seen these. I'm not sure when you handed the questions in, but there's not an answer for you straight away, but we'll get one for you. Your next question.
Will the council install no parking signs on the opposite side of Camberwell Street to stop the cars parking
And that's
there?
something we can investigate as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Davey.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to public statement time. Thank you. We have 15 minutes for public statement time, and each speaker is allowed 3 minutes. So first I'll call up Dr. Eddie Wajon. And you're reading on behalf of Dr. Eddie Wajon.
Apologies, Eddie Wayon isn't available this evening. Colma Keating, botanist and geographer. I'm Eddie Wayon. As Australian Native Plant Society National Conservation Officer, I speak on behalf of conservationists Australia-wide. I object to both of the rezoning amendments as proposed by the City of Gosnells. 75 of the submitters on this proposal also do not support the proposal. The EPA has allowed the proposed development, but only under certain conditions. These conditions are spelled out in the Ministerial Statement 1238 and the City's proposed amendments 166 and 169. However, what is missing is the City's proposed motion to approve the amendment is any acknowledgement that these conditions need to be to the satisfaction of DWER, DBCA and various other government departments before rezoning can be approved, and any structure plan is even drafted, let alone approved. Yet nowhere in the proposed motion is there any discussion on how meeting these conditions will be undertaken, how long it will take, how much it will cost, let alone what impact it might have on any proposed or idealised structure plan. It seems like you are just waving a magic wand over these matters and expecting to miraculously be solved. The reason these rezoning amendments are so contentious is that nobody, neither the EPA, DWER, nor myself, nor the City, its engineers, its mayor and the councillors currently understand what needs to be done to protect this fantastic environmental asset that you have in the greater Brixton Street wetlands and the potential Yulebrook Regional Park. The proposed motion indicates that the city is currently preparing a structure plan that is based on contemporary water-sensitive urban design and proven environmental management principles. Conservation areas will be protected within areas of open space and in the future are likely to form part of the Greater Brixton Street Wetland Regional Reserve. Further, best practice stormwater design will ensure the existing hydrological regime which supports the Greater Brixton Street Wetland ecosystem is maintained. The motion states that the city is currently preparing a structure plan to guide development. How can the city be preparing a structure plan before any of these studies required have been started, let alone completed? Are the city's engineers so much more competent than the state's best engineers and hydrologists that they know the answers before the questions have been addressed? The problem is that these contemporary water-sensitive urban design and proven environmental management principles and best practice stormwater design are inadequate for this area. If they were adequate and if they were used as part of the environmental approval document, the EPA would have no hesitation in approving the development. The truth is they are not, and lots of work, monitoring and research will be required to design a precinct and a structure plan that is fit for purpose and meets the EPA's requirements. Council officers make a statement that all costs associated with the scheme amendment number 166 and 169 can be met from the future planning operational budget without detailing what they are and what the total amount is. Are you aware of what it will take and that the financial burden of meeting the EPA's conditions could be overwhelming for the council? Are you comfortable with approving an open-ended budget with no potential end in sight? Are you aware that rezoning may commit the council to significant long-term management monitoring and potential rectification costs? Are you relaxed with any unexpected expenses that could strain the council's budget, potentially affecting other essential services and projects? I would strongly suggest that you consider the implications of how you vote on this rezoning and recommend that you wait until you have more detail on what is entailed and what the cost would be of meeting the environmental conditions.
Thank you. Thank you for your statement.
Thank you for your opportunity.
Councillor Good, did you want to share something with me?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I just hear some disturbance outside and I'm just been advised by a member of the public that a homeless gentleman's making noises, but I just thought I'd hear commotion. I was wondering what it was and or whether there was disruption to public safety.
Just so everyone knows, that person is a regular visitor here and he'll be fine and we'll all be fine and safe as well. Is that a fair assumption? The police have been called as well, so yeah, thank you. Okay, Mr Patrick Cullen next, thank you. On item number 13.2.2, which is on page 37 of the agenda, the rezoning of the areas of 166 and 169. Thank you.
For many years, scientists, conservationists and locals have rallied to save the Brixton Street wetlands and the surrounding reserves. I've had the privilege of working with this community on this campaign. We have written submissions, letters, held rallies, and even climbed up trees to face off against bulldozers, and even been arrested. Finally, after many years, the EPA agreed that the area must be spared. This wetland, the most biodiverse place on the Swan Coastal Plain, a hotspot of biodiversity within a global biodiversity hotspot. The area is important for Gosnells, important for WA, important for Australia, and important for the world. It has been shocking and sickening that the City of Gosnells has made no effort to save this place in line with the Billier Professor's vision for a regional park connected by the Yule Brook. It is absolutely gobsmacking that the EPA decision to protect that even after the EPA decision to protect the area, the City of Gosnells would pretend they know more than the EPA and make the ludicrous suggestion that zoning for industry would provide more protection. It was no wonder that both the appeals convener and the minister threw cold water on this idea. Now, even after 3 knockbacks, the City of Gosnells is at it again, trying to rezone the area for industry and business and ignoring the directives that said no planning should be done until a range of conditions were met, ensuring water flows into the wetland and no damage to flora and fauna. No such studies have been done, and the City of Gosnells should be ashamed of themselves. No person wants to be responsible for the extinction of a species, let alone an entire ecosystem, regarded as one of the most biodiverse and unique in the world. Any councillor that votes to rezone the industry will have crossed the line and put themselves in that bracket, that unthinkable group that would allow developers to stuff their overstuffed pockets with money at the expense of a globally significant wetland, including 3 species of threatened black cockatoos.
A representative from the Friends of... What was your name, sorry?
Rosalind Wang.
Could you spell your surname?
W-A-N-G.
There's no name on this, that's all. Thank you.
I've got a name on this. It's Sue Conlon.
Oh, Sue Conlon, yes, it is right there in the back on small. Yes, you're speaking on behalf of...
I am,
Ms.
yes.
Conlon. Thank you, Rosalind.
Friends of Mosman Bush Park. Our group of volunteers work with our land managers to restore and protect the ecological and cultural values of our local bushland. We are a member of the Urban Bushland Council that support volunteer bush care groups. Together we work to restore ecosystems through connecting wildlife linkages of our world-recognised biodiverse natural inheritance. There are many issues of concerns in the submissions for the development of the MEXC 2 and 3B precincts 166 and 169 that are dismissed as to be addressed by other planning instruments other than the TPS blanket rezoning. This is unsatisfactory and gives no confidence to the public that they will ever be addressed. Excuse me. Our concern is that the scientific advice and the community's concern for the implication to the Greater Brixton Street wetlands has been dismissed without any changes to the boundaries of Precinct 166 and 169. Too much weight is given to the inadequately thought out 2016 Perth to Peel plan for an industrial employment hub. Since that time, the employment situation has reversed. The impact of a drying, heating climate, continued clearing for urban development has greatly impacted our unique natural environment. Since DBCA's submission to the MEXC proposal, DBCA has written a protection of the Swan Canning Rivers strategy, which highlights the biggest threat to our rivers as clearing in the catchments. It has been revealed that in that time by City of Canning that the Canning River has a very low canopy cover. We ask for the DBCA response in detail before the TPS is progressed. It is unsatisfactory for DBCA's submission has been categorised as environmental issues with no detail in their summary. City of Gosnells' response to Watercorp DFS submissions has been dismissive. Hundreds of people wanted to support an increased buffer around the GBSW because of the impact to the wetlands from stage 1, but were completely ignored as being pro forma responses. It has been a huge task for City of Gosnells to sift through the submissions, but it appears that no changes have been made to increase the buffers. Allowing the concerns to progress to a structure plan is too late and sets a path that gives the public no confidence that the issues can be addressed with poor outcomes for the environment and livability much further than the boundaries of the City of Gosnells. We ask that the rezoning areas in the TPS are not accepted until there are some better attempts to address the concerns expressed in the submissions.
Thank you. Thank you. I now have Bev Dornan, and it's once again for item number 13.2.2 and 13.2.3. Is Bev here this evening? You're reading on behalf of Bev, are you, Mrs Towers?
Yes, I'm sorry to say Bev says that she can't come tonight, she's unwell.
Thank you.
Oh, like that? Is that better? Thank you. Good evening, mayors, councillors, city staff. My name is Bev Dornan and I'm a member of the Friends of the Greater Brixton Street Wetlands. As you are aware, this group is committed to preserving one of the most unique and biodiverse wetland areas in the Southern Hemisphere, home to over 650 native plant species and several threatened ecological communities, and a remarkable asset that you have the privilege of stewarding. I wish to express my strong opposition to the proposed MRS amendment relating to amendments number 166 and 169, specifically the blanket rezoning of land from rural to industrial or business development. I believe this rezoning is premature, procedurally flawed, and environmentally irresponsible. It jeopardises the Greater Brixton Street Wetlands, the Yulebrook Regional Park concept, and flies in the face of community concerns and expert scientific advice. My primary concern is the City's apparent disregard for the legally binding ministerial statements associated with Amendments 166 and 169. Preliminary legal opinion obtained suggests the City is acting prematurely. The ministerial statements mandate specific actions and conditions that must be met before any rezoning occurs. Rezoning before compliance flies in the face of orderly and proper planning, as espoused by the State Planning Framework, and may provide grounds for judicial review if Council proceeds to support rezoning at this stage. Before any rezoning can take place, the City must demonstrate to the community and to the responsible authority, the WAPC, that it has the resources, expertise and budget to meet these immutable ministerial conditions. A vague commitment, which is what you're giving, is not enough. The ministerial conditions are conditions of approval and cannot be ignored. Approval may not proceed until they are fulfilled. Specifically, Condition 1 requires all conditions in Extra 1 of MS 1239 must be inserted in Schedule 6 Environmental Conditions of the City of Gosnells Town Planning Scheme 6, which has not yet occurred. Furthermore, relying on draft local structural plans at this stage is unacceptable for any modern local government authority, let alone one that has custodianship of a world-renowned environmental area. Presenting a draft plan so soon after the ministerial statements were issued is way too premature. Council cannot reasonably base such a critical decision on incomplete and unverified plans. The environmental consequences of this blanket rezoning are deeply troubling. High conservation areas, including conservation category wetlands, threatened ecological communities and vital habitat outside the Greater Brixton Street wetlands boundary are at risk of irreversible damage. The EPA has told you that loud and clear. The current maps are demonstrably defective in this regard. Councillors may be aware that recently the appeals convener considered objections to an MRS rezoning proposal.
Sorry, I'll give you another 30 seconds like I did the other person, but just know this has been emailed through to the councillors earlier today.
Okay, I urge the Council reject this proposed MRS rezoning. Please defer the vote until the City can clearly demonstrate full compliance with the ministerial statements, that a comprehensive and environmentally sound structure plan can be put in place, and that genuine and fully costed safeguards are in place to protect this recognised jewel in the crown. I ask councillors to make the environmental protection and sustainability a priority. This requires good faith and legal compliance with all ministerial conditions before any rezoning. Thank you for your time and consideration.
If you might like to stay there, because I'm going to call Catherine Towse up now for her speech. Thank you. 3 minutes as well. Thank you.
Right. First of all, I'm very concerned that the councillors and public have not been fully informed by the City of Gosnells of the contents of the highly relevant statutory documents, EPA 2022, EPA 2024, Appeals Convener 2024, and the two ministerial statements 2025. I referenced them in my statement, but they weren't referenced in yours. Councillors need to understand these in great detail to make informed factual decisions on how to vote with respect to the city's controversial recommendations. Councillors, put your hand up if you've actually read all of these documents. Okay, I take it that none of you have read them.
Sorry, that is not an admission whether they've read them or not. It's just that councillors
Okay.
are not required to respond to.
All
at
right,
this point.
well,
Thank
just
you.
think on that. The City of Gosnells, in these current recommendations, has ignored the conclusions and rulings of these legal instruments, which have progressively over time tightened their stance on what can and what cannot be done legally in the amendments areas. So much new scientific evidence about the exceptional environmental significance of the wetlands and its surrounding hydroplane has emerged in the nearly 20 years that the plans for the MIXI proposal have just floundered about, rooted in the past 2 centuries' narrow thinking and ignorance. Concurrently, public awareness has outstripped the demonstrated environmental awareness budget and capacity of the LGA staff to understand and act effectively on such challenges, I contend. Moreover, the responses to the submissions as contained in the City of Gosnells report to Council are often untrue. I notice they are hollow on reasons and facts, and they misrepresent the facts in many instances. For example, the City has misrepresented the dismissal of the City's appeal against the EPA decision by the appeals convener in 2024, page 28, by claiming the City's appeal was upheld. This is not true, so don't put it in things that you circulate to the Council. The votes on either of the amendments, as recommended by staff, will not be informed decisions by Council. There are many reasons why I vote for the amendments now, before the City has made even the very first attempt to satisfy the conditions imposed on it legally, is not wise, legal, or even in the interest of good government, and will be vigorously opposed by the community. A vote according to City recommendations tonight will, 1, contravene the legal judgments of EPA 2022, 2024, the appeals convener and the ministerial statements. The appeals convener actually dismissed soundly the appeal of the City, see page 22 to 28, but the City is now misrepresenting this dismissal as a win to Council. The vote for the City's recommendations tonight will also continue to subject the City to much more expense, and after nearly 20 years of MIXI reports and millions of dollars of ratepayers' funds spent, commit the City to an even more protracted and sophisticated research-level investigation of land capability, and especially hydrology, with almost no likelihood that the land can be developed at all at the end of all this. I kid you not. No, almost no likelihood.
Sorry, Mrs. Towse, I'll give you another 20 seconds.
Okay. It will deliver extreme and continued reputation damage to the City of Gosnells and fuel increased social conflict between Gosnells and the community and its scientists, inflict damage and destruction of environmental values that are unequivocally protected by WA and federal law, be a breach of the EPBC Act, as so many matters of national environment significance are at stake, and the City of Gosnells is flouting WA statutory conditions sent to prevent such breaches and justify judicial review of the City of Gosnells. I urge your Council not to support amendments 166 and 169 to Town Planning Scheme 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have Leah Sislak on wishing to speak on item 13.2.4, which is on page 11 of the agenda, I believe.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, councillors and staff. Tonight I wish to speak on item 13.2.4, the sea containers for 89 Lot 40 White Road, Orange Grove, supporting the staff recommendation. The application proposes a significant variation to the requirements of Local Planning Policy 2.2 in regard to the number of sea containers proposed on the property. The previously approved development application for 6 sea containers approved in Orange Grove, 2 of them were originally planned to be temporary as part of the approval recommendations, meeting the conditions for Local Planning Policy 2.2. The rear boundary setback for 5 of the sea containers does not comply with the requirements of Town Planning Scheme 6, being 0.9 metres, not the 3 metres permitted in the policy. Regardless if the applicant owns the rear property, it is still a separate property from the proposed development application and it could be sold. Any amendments to the number of containers would be bending the policy to fit the application. Once again, I ask you to support the staff recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Sislak. Next we have Murray Raidstock. It's around Amendment 166 and 169. Is Murray around? Thank you. Is a question or?
Thank you, Mayor and councillors. Does the City of Gosnells appreciate the rezoning is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for the city to show some vision and foresight for future generations by reconfiguring and excising some land to incorporate it into the proposed Yulebrook Regional Park? Because if this land is developed, it's gone. It is gone forever. The alternative is another 20 to 50 warehouses plastered over this pristine environment, but warehouses that could be built anywhere. Please give the scientists, researchers and the public the benefit of a regional park. Thank you.
Did you want to continue with the rest of what you've got?
No, the rest is more of what has been said by other speakers.
Okay, no worries. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the end of public question and statement time. Now move on to the confirmation of the minutes. Can I get a mover for that, please? Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst and Councillor Betts to second that. Councillors, please cast your vote by show of hands. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to receiving of petitions and presentations. Are there any petitions or presentations? No, thank you. Are there any applications for leave of absence? Nope. There are no questions which due notice has been given. There are no items to be brought forward. There's just a couple before the amendment one, so we'll just move through. We'll move on to item number 13.1.1, the Sustainable Energy Project. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Williamson to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this? Councillor Williamson, would you like to speak to this? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No, thank you. Councillors, could you please cast your vote? Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Moving on to 13.2.1, the development application, which is a reconsideration of transport depot, caretakers, dwelling, storage and industry general at 61 lot 252 Clifford Street, Maddington. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Dewhurst to move this and Councillor Baines to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this item?
I'll leave it to the end, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Baines, would you like to speak to this item? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillors, I have two amendments to this item. The first one is that that Council adds the recommendation 3 to the staff recommendation as follows: that Council reviews its requirements for the standard of landscaping associated with the new development as to ensure that advanced trees can be included in the new development to provide potential habitat and tree canopy for the following reasons. Although this issue is considered in the assessment of landscape plans currently, the need for tree canopy and habitat where possible is becoming an issue of increased concern and need in the new development area of the metropolitan area. Can I get a seconder for that, please, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Dalton. And just to add to it, I did have a look at the landscaping design for this one, and it's all low shrubs, which doesn't increase the tree canopy in the area, so it'd be good to have something set in place where we could actually have trees put into all of the recommendations in the landscaping things. So, Councillor Dalton, would you like to speak to this amendment? Would anybody else like to speak to this amendment? Councillors, I would ask you to cast your vote on this amendment, please. Thank you. That has been carried. And now we're going to go back to the original item, of which I have another amendment. So, I, Mayor Theresa Lyons, propose the date 7th of June 2026 in condition 1 be replaced with the 31st of December 2025, just for the following reasons, is to align with the previous decisions made by other applications. Can I get a seconder for this, please? Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Yes, just following on, we've got a few different dates and it'd be nice to start to line them up a little bit better, and so that we can actually progress with what's happening in that particular area. So in order to change that to December 2025, I think aligns better with what's happening in the area. So councillors, would the seconder, who seconded that, sorry? Councillor McDonald, would you like to speak to this item? No? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, will you please cast your vote on that amendment? Thank you. Thank you, councillors. That has been carried. We now move both of those amendments back with the original item. And would anybody else like to speak to the original item? Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to close the debate on the original item? Councillors, we're voting on the original item plus the two amendments. So if you could please cast your vote on that. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. We'll now move on to 13.2.2, the amendment for number 166 to Town Planning Scheme number 6, the finalisation rezoning of land to business development. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Betts to move this, Councillor Dewhurst to second this. Councillor Betts, would you like to speak to this item?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've taken a great interest in the environmental issues that people have raised, and those who know me know that I take a keen interest in environmental matters for a long, long time. My background originally was agricultural science. In the days when I did agricultural science at university, that was also the degree that people did who did mining rehabilitation mine sites, so it's now called environmental science, was sort of covered under that broad in our faculty. But I think what has come across to me from the comments and the statements that have been made is there seems to be a serious misunderstanding of the planning process, because all that council is doing, and have a look at page 42 of the agenda, is that we are simply as a council saying we endorse something, but we're actually not making a decision. The decision as to whether this proceeds or not doesn't lie with council, but it actually lies with the minister and the whole plan, the Department of Planning. So this is simply one of the steps for us as a council to be asked to be implementing all these things at great expense before we know it's even going to happen. That does not make sense. So that's why the planning process has these stepped or has certain sequences, and that is to ensure that things are done decently and in good order, and that is all that is happening here today. So we're simply taking it along the next step, and a decision as to what actually is going to happen does not lie with this council. It actually lies with the minister. And if I'm incorrect in that, perhaps the Director for Planning could correct me. Is that? That's correct. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. So I can't put my hand on my heart and say I've read every single document, but I've spent many, many hours looking at this because I'm conflicted from what I hear from one side and then what I read and all that. So I've had to sit down there and try and work out exactly what we're actually trying to do here tonight. Now, some people mentioned tonight that we can't make any decision until such time as those conditions are met by for the scheme amendment that's been put out under statement number 1238, and I actually agreed until I actually started reading it. So what's actually happening is, and we've got to cut through to the chase here. The fact is, whether this land is zoned industrial now or later on, it's eventually going to happen. So what can we do? I've looked at this. What can I do, and what can we do now as a council to make sure we get the best outcome for the Brixton Street wetlands? And while I'm sitting in this seat, I'll do whatever I can to actually do that. So what's happened is that the minister has turned around and said, council, you must meet these environmental conditions before anything can happen, right? What we're doing tonight is we're saying in our scheme amendments is that, yes, we are going to do those conditions, and we are going to meet all those conditions, and we're going to put it into the scheme amendment. So, but looking further into it, I actually think this is actually a bonus, what we're doing tonight for the Brixton Street wetlands, because not only have we gone from 50-metre buffers, we've actually gone to 160-metre buffers on recommendations from the Minister around the southeast area of the Brixton Street wetlands, which actually protects it. So these buffers now become on the start of the process to become into law, because currently at the moment those landowners can drive along their fence line where the Brixton Street wetlands is, spray glyphosate along there and have all that going into the wetlands, into the wetland area, and they can do that. They can actually do that. They also can start fertilising their paddocks, which I know one particular person who does, and what they can do is do it before the rains and all that water's going to run into the wetlands. What we're trying to do here tonight is actually protect the wetlands from this happening. There's no building occurring. There's nothing occurring whatsoever, because we don't make that decision. All we are saying is, yes, the Minister's given us these conditions that we must do to protect the wetlands, and we actually agree with him. This is what this is all about. So and I've had a lot of phone calls, and I've met people and discussed this at length with people, and we've gone through it, and we've actually come to an agreement that we're actually all arguing for the same thing. But it's just the explanation's probably not getting out the best way that it could be explained, and there might be some people out there that are a bit mischievous as well. I mean, the best outcome for this was for all of us to actually work together, buy a big heap of this land when it eventually becomes available, and plant a heap of trees on it. I was going to say something else, but I stopped myself. We can plant a whole heap of trees on there. You know, there's all sorts of things that can happen. But for tonight, I mean, I like the fact that during this amendment, the fact is we get rid of Boundary Road and we actually move it away from the Brixton Street wetlands. I like that idea. I like the idea of the 160-metre buffer. I like the idea from the Minister about the quarantine exclusion zones. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And I can't see why people be arguing us not to adopt this, because we need to adopt this to protect the Brixton Street wetlands. You know, there's other things that I've read there that I'm really conflicted over, like, for instance, you know, the hydrology reports from DPIRD are saying, are saying that, you know, the water runs through this particular way, when in fact, what they've done is looked at the Swan Coastal Plain and said, yeah, the water runs this kind of way, but that particular land there is all sorts of stuff in there, including clay, and water does sit on top of the ground. Sometimes it doesn't run anywhere. I also know, and don't tell anybody this, Madam Mayor, this is our secret, but back in the late 70s, early 80s, I used to race around there on motorbikes with all my mates. And I know for a fact there, the amount of rubbish that's buried under that place in some of those places is horrific. And if anyone starts developing there, or when we start digging for this environmental area, we're going to find all this stuff and we're going to have to remove it. So Madam Mayor, I really do believe that, you know, we need to approve this tonight to actually protect the Brixton Street wetlands. And I'm happy to have those discussions with anybody. I'm sure you are, and I'm sure the CEO is as well. And I'm happy to stand behind why I make these comments, is because it's actually written here in the document. So thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Would anybody else like to? Councillor Deputy Mayor Williamson, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to agree with Councillor Dewhurst and Councillor Abet's comments so far. And I think I probably need to pretense everything I'm going to say by I'm not a planning expert, I'm not an environmental expert, I'm a councillor who's come onto the council to try and do the best thing for the community, and that includes the environment as well. From when I first began on council, the plans for Mooksy had been around many, many years before I was around. And it was something I was very cautious and sceptical over. What were these plans? Why were they happening? Why were they right next to a wetland? It's something where I've spent hours upon hours asking hundreds, thousands of questions, reading many documents, doing many training sessions, reading all the submissions and listening to the community. And I guess I'm still not an expert. At the end of the day, tonight I have to make a decision based on all the available information that I've gained over that time, and I'll be the first to admit I haven't read every single word in the ministerial statement, but I have read through what the amendments were and what the conditions were, and I'm satisfied through the inquiries I've made with our staff that the conditions that we're including from the ministerial statement are word by word of what the ministerial statement was requesting for the environment. And I guess from tonight, and I guess to back up what Councillor Dewhurst and what Councillor Abetz have explained, is planning is very complex. There's many, many steps. And at the end of the day, us as a council are not here approving this change. And I think one of the key differences which came across to me when I've done all the research is we're not rezoning this whole area as industrial. We're rezoning it as business development. Under our TPS 6, business development means it needs to be guided by a structure plan. So before the next step of the structure plan can actually go ahead, one of the first conditions that the Minister imposed, which we will be adopting, I'll just find the page, it's in our Appendix 8. Is requirements before a structure plan approval. So prior to the preparation of a structure plan, the following must be completed in accordance with the requirements in Attachment A in the ministerial statement. So I think that addresses some of the queries that come through the public consultation, why we didn't include Attachment A. It's because it's in the wording of the conditions we're including. And that includes Part A and B is with consultation with Department of Water and Environmental Regulations, and in consultation with Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions. So everything we do before the structure plan can even go out to public comment and out to be approved needs to be in consultation with those two other agencies which do have the experts. And we're not objecting to what their expertise are. We're saying this is what council is agreeing to do. We're including this in our amendment, which will go off to the Minister of Planning for final approval. And when those structure plans are drafted and they do have that advice, then there will be more opportunities for the community to come together and voice their opinions on what that is and why those decisions. There may be more technical studies, but basically it's not City of Gosnells going it alone and fighting against the other two departments. We're in consultation with them to shape what the structure plan will be. And I guess what's guided what my decision will be tonight, I feel I'll be supporting these amendments, because if we were to not support these at this stage, we have the MRS zoning this area as industrial. We have our local planning scheme, our town planning scheme, because it's the old one, treating this as general rural. When these two don't match, it is very, very difficult for our compliance team to mount a legal argument that an industrial use isn't meeting the requirements of that general rural when it's got different zoning at the different levels. And that's just my interpretation from questions I've asked over the years. So I'm not a technical expert, so maybe after I finish I may ask the Director of Planning to clarify that point. And so because we have that, what will happen once this is adopted, if the Minister for Planning does approve these amendments as we're suggesting, that will then allow anyone who's not doing general rural will need to apply for a transitional time-limited development approval. And it's at that point that we can make sure what they're doing on their land is actually going to not have negative impacts on the environment, or that it's in line with what our overall goal is for the structure plan in the area. So I see it gives us, in my heart and my reasoning of why we'll do this, it gives us more power to be able to protect the environment, because we can take a legal stance and address any non-conforming that's actually happening out there at the moment. So I guess tonight, I guess I don't want to be known as that unthinkable group, as some may say we are, that are going out and destroying the wetlands. My interpretation of council and all the councillors is we genuinely care. We have been torn between what to do. We have this legacy issue that we're trying to work, and we know this is a big decision that will impact the future, and I'm trying to do the right thing, and I genuinely believe so are the rest of the councillors. So councillors, I'll leave it to you to make your decision of what you feel is right tonight based on the information we have. But first I'll just ask the Director of Planning to clarify whether my interpretation of how the MRS and TPS work is correct.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is correct. With the placement of those ministerial conditions in the amendment, that's then setting the umbrella within which all of those other processes can work and creating a set of rules which currently don't exist. And that's the reason why the region scheme and the local scheme do need to be aligned, is so that planning can operate properly.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this item or have any questions? Councillor Lloyd, thank you.
I just wanted to take a moment to reflect what Deputy Mayor Williamson said, that I think it's really important that for those of us that are new councillors, that when you're elected to council, you're often met with decisions made long before your arrival. And what I do know is that our community in our strategic community plan placed environment at such a high priority. And it's something that I looked at when I was considering running. And look, from my perspective, we simply don't have enough information or understanding of the long-term environmental impacts for the area, and it is simply too important an area to not give the proper thought to. But I feel like we have to move forward from here, and to be able to protect the city, I will be supporting the application tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Is there anyone else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, if you'd like to cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to item number 13.2.3, the amendment to number 169 to Town Planning Scheme number 6, finalisation rezoning of land to business development zone. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this, Councillor Singh to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Singh? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Just wait 1 minute. Okay, move on to 13.2.4, the development application for the sea containers at 89 Lot 40 White Road, Orange Grove. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Islam to move this and a seconder. Councillor Dalton to second this. Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Dalton? Would anybody? Councillor Dewhurst, thank you.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I've got an amendment to this item. Item 13.2.4. I, Councillor Dewhurst, propose the following. The staff recommendation be amended by deleting conditions 1 and 2, and in condition 3, delete the number 60 and replace it with 120. Pink one.
Did you want to go on with the following reasons?
I'll give you the reasons, yep.
Yeah.
No, don't want a seconder?
No, seconder after you put your reasons through.
Oh, okay. I should know that one now. Okay, so deleting conditions 1 and 2 would have effect of approving the 10 sea containers being kept on the property. The existing sea containers cannot be seen from White Road or any other adjoining properties. Therefore, they do not adversely affect the amenity of the area or adjoining properties. Under Council's outbuildings and sea containers policy, on a 2 hectare site, the applicant could build a shed of up to 1,000 square metres with a height of 6.5 metres. A shed of that size would have far greater impact on the amenity of the area than the 10 sea containers proposed. In terms of condition 3, the structures referred to in this condition are minor and it is not critical that they be removed from site. A longer time frame to seek approvals for these structures will not cause any issues and simply place less pressure on the applicant.
Can I get a seconder for that, please? Councillor Betts, happy to second that. Would you like to speak to it?
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, there's a lot of things out there about sea containers and everything like that, but I won't go too far into this. But the 10 sea containers equate to 180 square metres outbuilding space where the person can actually store stuff that he wants to store in there. He's made it very clear that it's for his own hobbies and own use. Where in fact, and these buildings, these sea containers can't be actually viewed from anywhere from anybody else. He's put trees, mature trees, right around the sea containers, up and down his driveway. He can't see it from his place. They can't see it from their place. In regards to between the buffer, the sea containers being up against property line. Well, he does own both the properties, Madam Mayor, and doesn't intend to sell them or anything like that. And even he can't see him from he lives in the back part of the property. He can't see him from his place and that there. So I seek the councillors to support my amendment to the motion. And just to quickly sum up on that, the fact is that there's 180 square metres. You're still seeing three sides of a, doesn't matter what if they're lined up against each other or just one building. I believe putting a 1,000 square metre shed on there, 6.5 metres high, will detract from the amenity of that particular area, along that area there. And it just makes sense to me that we allow the person to have 180 square metres of outbuilding there that doesn't affect anybody. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Councillor Dewhurst, sorry. As the seconder, Councillor Betts, would you like to speak to this item? Thank you.
And thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor will know that I had another amendment here, but I'm more than happy to not run with mine and to support Councillor Dewhurst's. The only issue that I had was the fact that the 5 containers that are very close to the boundary, if the other property, the current owner, owns both properties, and therefore it's not an issue how far the containers are away from the boundary. But if the other property were ever sold, then those containers would be very closer to the boundary than should normally be permitted. But I guess one could argue that whoever purchases that new block of land will be fully aware that those containers are there, and it's a choice they make as to whether they purchase that, given that particular development has been approved next door. So I encourage councillors to support the amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Betts. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Councillor Williamson, Deputy Mayor Williamson, sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to speak against this amendment. So I think 10 sea containers being given permanent approval is far beyond what our policy expects in that area. I think the sea containers, visually, to look at them, they're not the greatest thing to look at. A number of them are rusty, they're various colours, got some graffiti and all sorts of things on them. I think if we did have an actual shed there, even though it may be larger in size, it would actually be a better visual outcome and less impact on the amenity. I think I would be more lenient towards the approval on a temporary basis, because whilst at the moment the applicant owns both blocks, that block isn't amalgamated into one lot. If it was amalgamated into one lot, then you may assume, well, he owns it all, so he can have 10 because it can be right on the boundary. But the next owner along, they may see it, they may not see it, the next person who purchases it, but it's far beyond what we would ordinarily expect in that area. Sea containers are industrial. We do make exceptions. We do have an allowance for 4 sea containers, and in certain circumstances we can go above that, but I don't think we would normally go above it if it's right that close to the boundary. So I think I know Councillor Betts did have another amendment that I would have been more amenable to that amendment. So if this one does fall over, I wonder whether Councillor Betts still intends to put his other amendment up.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you, Councillor Deputy Mayor Williamson. You've already spoken to this amendment, Councillor Betts, so you wouldn't be able to speak to this amendment again. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this amendment? Thank you, Councillor Good.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in support of Councillor Dewhurst's amendment. A couple of key issues to me are it's a general policy. It's not a law. 4 sea containers. I wonder how many other properties have got 5, 6, 7, 8 that you can never see from the road. My view on council matters is always, it's a general guideline, but if you're causing no harm and no one can almost see anything, matter of fact, this one you can't, you're causing no harm. Therefore, what is the actual issue? We're trying to make things as attractive and as pleasant in a rural setting, but again, what someone does on the side of a shed, any other structure, it's without our control sometimes. But my view would be, yes, certainly you had a guideline of 4. I did note there's an application here potentially to review conditions of delegation authority. Again, I make the point, when do people need to apply for something if it's something so easy that can fit on a property that doesn't need council approval? If you're causing no issues and no harm, what is the concern? And I think, as Councillor Dewhurst has mentioned, when you build a large shed of a superior size structure, well, you've actually got a bigger, if you like, obstacle to look at. So I'm thinking, this is not an issue to me. So I cause no harm. It's causing no concern. I will support the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Good. I actually have an amendment to the amendment. And the amendment is that I, Mayor Theresa Lyons, add 2 more conditions, that the 5 sea containers abutting the rear of the property is approved as long as the adjoining lot 41 continues in the same ownership as lot 40, and number 2, that the original conditions 3, 4 and 5 be renumbered accordingly. For the following reasons: given that the applicant owns lot 40 and lot 41, the siting of the sea containers near the common boundary is immaterial, as the 2 sites are owned and managed under the same custodianship. You will all note that this is the amendment that Councillor Betts is going to put up, but I think it's better to put it together with this one now rather than wait till it comes back. So that will be, can I get a seconder for that? Councillor Good to second that, thank you. And yeah, just to make sure that it's the same ownership and that continues and there's no other landowner affected by this, and it is quite hidden. I drive past that road quite often and I cannot see the sea containers from the road. Maybe I'm blind, but I can't see them from the road. So they're not affecting the amenity from my point of view driving past. So if it's not affecting the nearby neighbours, then I'm not sure why we're concerning ourselves with this. So can I, does anyone else want to speak against this amendment to the amendment or for it? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst.
I'm in 2 minds in regards to the amendment, because I was thinking about raising that amendment myself, but then I started looking at it practically and how this could work. I mean, there's been no suggestion whatsoever, unless someone here knows that he's got intended to sell the properties. There's no suggestion of that, and having spoken to him, he would have mentioned it. I'm sure he would have done. In regards to the properties, he does own both of those properties. How are we actually going to police it? I would like to be a question for one of the directors, is that this fella ends up, drops off the perch and his son or daughter gets it and ownership's changed, and that he owns the same properties. How do we actually police it? And if the person owns both the properties, because it's his son or daughter owns both the properties now, technically, would this amendment make them having to remove those sea containers?
Thank you. We'll get Director Bradbrook to respond to that, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I think if the conditions imposed on the owner of this particular property, well, if the adjoining land sells, that does trigger the removal of those sea containers. It would be a matter for the courts ultimately to determine. But I would have thought that that it would be an enforceable condition, because you've got a trigger event, a clear trigger event that that ownership of the property has changed, which requires those containers to be removed.
Do you have a further question?
Yeah, I have. I mean, the trigger of ownership may not be selling the property. It could actually be, the fact is that ownership may change because the daughter or the son may take over the properties. I just ask that we think very carefully of this, because if something does happen, he does sell in 20 years' time, who's going to actually pull it? Who's going to sit there and say, hey, you need to remove those sea containers? It's, I think we're just adding a layer of bureaucracy. And one of the key things I like about this council is we've been getting rid of red tape and bureaucracy. And I don't think this actually fits. This actually creates bureaucracy, headache and red tape that we shouldn't be implementing in the City of Gosnells. So I'd ask councillors to not support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Speak in support of this amendment. Councillor Betts, thank you.
I speak in support of your amendment, which was sort of like mine.
Yes, well, you can put it up.
Because I think because I think the way the amendment is worded, if I understood correctly, is as long as the two properties remain in the same ownership. So if the father drops off the perch and the properties go to the son, well, it's still in the same ownership. Nothing needs to change. But if Joe Bloggs, who's totally unrelated to the family, buys the block next door, and at the moment there's trees there that screen the containers, but there's no law to say that the owner of the property where the containers are can't actually remove those trees, and then the person who has that property next door will have those containers right on their boundary, which is not very pleasant. So I think it's wise to have that in the development approval, that while the two properties are in the same ownership, it can continue. But if that's sold separately, then those containers would need to be removed. I think that's not an unreasonable thing.
Councillor Betts, would anybody else like to speak on this amendment? I'll just close then. And the reason that we put an amendment like this on is the protection of the new property owner should Mr Stewart decide he wants to move to Thailand and sell up. Don't like to talk about people that are going to not live a long, healthy, happy life. So we'll just protect the new owners. What will happen then is the owners would come to the council and say, hey, have they got approval for that sea container? No, they haven't, because they're not the same owners anymore. So that's where we find out if it should or shouldn't be there. So this is why we have that level of protection for the new owner coming in. So I ask councillors to support this amendment, please. Councillors, please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Now we put that amendment back with Councillor Dewhurst's amendment. And would anybody like to speak on that amendment? No? Councillors, you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. And now those amendments both go back with the original item. And would anybody like to speak on the original item? No? Councillors, you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Yep. Too late now, councillor. Sorry, the vote's gone.
Is there something under standing orders where I can ask for the item to be brought back up?
No?
No?
We'll just double check that, Councillor Dewhurst.
Yeah.
I
I'm
just
not
saw
sure.
it then.
I don't
I
think
just
there is,
realised
but-
myself, yeah. Maybe Councillor Dewhurst could add that into his motion that he's got
I think
coming
I'll
up.
put into my motion, yeah.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Okay, moving on. We are moving on to item 13.4.1, the Neighbour of the Year Awards 2025. The council recommendation is that you insert a number into that, as the item is confidential as to who the numbers are. So what this would require is for a councillor to move the item with the number. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So can I get a mover? And there might be more than one mover on this, might be more than one nomination, so it gets a bit tricky, I guess. So can I get a mover for this item, please? Councillor Lloyd would like to move this item. And would Councillor Lloyd now say which number she would like to? Number 2. Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. And you might have to give the councillors just a minute to have a look at who number 2 is. Sorry to those in the gallery. Thank you.
There's going to be some discussion about this. Do you want to take this and deal with it when it's confidential?
Yeah, I might do that.
Because you're just going to find it very difficult.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, we're going to move this to the confidential item at the end when the council meeting's closed, so which makes it a little bit easier to do. And so we haven't received a seconder yet, so we're happy to do that and we'll move on to the next item. Thank you, councillors. So item number 13.4.2 is the next item, I believe, which is the History and Heritage Advisory Group meeting on the 6th of February. Can I get a mover for this, please? Councillor Dewhurst to move this, Councillor McDonald to second this. Councillor Dewhurst, would you like to speak to this item? No. Councillor McDonald, no, thank you. Councillors, would there be any questions or debate on this item? No, if you could cast your vote, thank you. Thank you, that has been carried. Moving on to 13.5.1, the 2024 annual electors meeting. Can I get a mover for this? Councillor Dalton to move this and Councillor Islam to second this. Thank you. Councillor Dalton, would you like to speak to this item? Councillor Islam, would you like to speak to this item? Would anybody else like to speak to this item? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Deputy Mayor Williamson, I thought I was going to have to ask the question you might be going to ask.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to clarify, there was a question that was raised at the annual electors meeting about the longest serving female councillor, and I was just wondering if we have a response to that.
Thank you, and Mr Bradbrook will respond to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, we have checked the records and Councillor Searle was the longest serving female councillor in Western Australia.
And the jury's out whether it was 38 years or 40 years, so we'll check that as well. 39 in between. I'm pretty sure she wanted it to be the 40 years, so that's what I thought it was, but we'll double check that anyway. Councillor Williamson, Deputy Mayor Williamson, can I get this right? Can you put the Deputy Mayor a little bit over?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask the CEO or through you, Madam Mayor, what is the process for the two motions that were passed at the annual electors meeting, if someone could explain that?
Thank you, Mr CEO.
Madam Mayor, reports have been written on both of the motions. They'll be coming to the next council meeting.
Thank you. Is there any other questions or debate on this item, councillors? Another one? Yep, thank you, Councillor Williams.
Thank you. I'm just going to speak to it.
Yes, that's fine.
Finished with questions. Thank you. I just wanted to say how pleasing it was to have a great turnout at the annual electors meeting, and I wanted to congratulate Madam Mayor on her responses. There was a number of questions, and I think the Mayor addressed them very well. And I think as well, one of the questions raised was what happens after the annual electors meeting. So electors come along and they ask questions and then they say they don't really hear anything back. So I just wanted to assure everyone, even if your motion wasn't passed or supported or didn't have any immediate action, we as a council and the staff take on board the comments that are made. We give them further thought. We make inquiries, we do research, and what you might see might come out a year down the track, but it's something that is shaped because we have listened to what you've come and actually told us or questioned us about. So I think it's definitely worth coming to the meetings, and it's great to have two motions that were actually passed, and it will see the next steps actually happen. Thank you.
Mayor, would anybody else like to speak to this item? No? Councillors, if you please cast your vote. Thank you. Thank you. That has been carried. Let's move the next two together. Can I get a mover for item 13.5.2, the financial activity statement, and 13.5.3, the payment of accounts? Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst, seconded by Councillor Betts. Thank you. And can we, I have questions on it now, I've got them too, can I? No. Yeah, that's okay. If someone tells me they wanted to ask questions on this, I'm going to have to revert back to moving them separately. Did anyone have any questions on these two items? No? You can if you like, no pressure, it's fine. No? Okay, councillors, if you could please cast your vote on this item, both items, thank you. Thank you, they have both been carried. We now have a motion which has been brought forward, which is 14.1, preparation of a local planning policy on exempt development. Councillor Dewhurst. Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, I'll make the following proposed motion. The Council requests the Chief Executive Officer to prepare a local planning policy to prescribe minor proposals that do not require development approval for consideration by Council. And I'd like to add in there to be prepared and presented 4 weeks to present a clear timeframe. State government amendments to planning regulations in 2022 had the effect of requiring a range of minor developments, particularly in rural areas, to obtain development approval. Those developments were previously exempt from the requirement to obtain planning approval. For example, an owner of a rural property is now required to obtain development approval to erect a patio or minor structure, even where those structures are set back significant distances from neighbouring properties. Previously, those types of developments would have required only a building permit. In the planning space, we need less red tape, not more, requiring development applications for minor proposals that would never be refused simply adds cost and time to both the applicants and the city for no benefit. Ultimately, it also adds cost to ratepayers as the city ends up requiring more staff to process meaningless development applications. I understand that the city could adopt a local planning policy that would exempt specific types of development from the requirements to obtain planning approval. Such a policy should be progressed as a matter of urgency in order to remove unnecessary costs and bureaucracy.
Seeking a seconder?
Yep.
Councillor Betts happy to second that. Would you like to speak to it? Thank you.
I do like to speak to it, and I'd also like to bring up an amendment if I can. Look,
Hang on.
I know what he's going to say. I know what he's going to say. So could I ask maybe David to read that for me?
Sorry, 1 second. Thank you.
I was trying to get away with it.
I think if we're doing that in 2 weeks' time, it's a new amendment as a motion to be considered. But
Can he do it here or not?
well, he hasn't given the effective notice. It probably isn't.
Yeah, no. We'll just bring this back at 2 weeks' time, if you don't mind.
If another councillor brought it up as an amendment to this.
Another councillor could.
Well, they can't because these are
Yeah, these are motions of which previous notice has been given, so you can't bring an amendment up.
So it's hard to legitimately put it on there, but it's not going to be waiting around for too long. So
Okay.
just bring it back next meeting.
Yep. We'll bring it back for the next meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fair. 2 weeks is 2 weeks. Little happens within 2 weeks, and a lot happens actually. So I'll seek that actually proposed amendment to the motion I was going to bring up before to actually come up as a proposed motion for next OCM then. Okay, thanks very much. Look, I think this proposed motion is self-explanatory. What's happened is the state government's made all these wide ranges of changes in local government. It's and no one really thought about the ramifications of it, about costing the community, costing council, because all these changes that the state government makes is ultimately cost ratepayers. I can go off script here and we can talk about the puppy farming law. The fact is they made beautiful amendments to that. I was all supportive of it, but what they've done is they've provided all the onus on local councils to administer it, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So there's a lot of things come through that cost the council and ratepayers a lot of money, and things we shouldn't be doing, particularly when the puppy law is actually flawed anyway, but I won't go into that. But anyway, so look, I'm just seeking to try and reduce the red tape in the city of Gosnells for our ratepayers, and ask you to support my proposed motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dewhurst. Councillor Betts, would you like to speak to this? Would anybody else like to speak to this? I toyed with sharing my story on this because I actually found out about this happening, and through my own development, my own patio approval process, which I'm happy to say has now been approved through all the channels, but basically I put a patio approval in for my house and I'm in the rural area, and I got a notice back from the council saying you need a development application for that. I need a what? So I was really shocked to find that people in the rural area have to have a development application for a patio. It seems ridiculous. So I'm happy to support this being looked at. I did go through the process and get a development application approved, and then I went back to the building permit, so that's all done now. So it's interesting when you go through the process yourself to find out these things could be changed to make it a lot easier for our people to get the simplest of structures built. So thank you for bringing the motion up, Councillor Dewhurst, and I'm happy to support it. Would anybody else like to speak to this item? I didn't ask him to bring it up either, just so you know. Thank you, councillors. If you'd like to cast your vote, that'd be great. Thank you. It's been carried. Thank you. Okay, we are now going to confidential matters. So, councillors, I need a mover to close the meeting. Thank you, Councillor Lloyd and Councillor Betts to second that. Councillors, please cast your vote on closing the meeting. Thank you. That has been closed. The meeting is now closed to the general public. Thank you everyone for coming along this evening, and you may wait outside until we're finished if you like, or you may go home outside. You may go home and enjoy your night. It's up to you. Thank you.